A German Shepherd sits outside a children's hospital for 5 days straight, refusing food, refusing to leave. Everyone thinks he's mourning, but what if he's actually trying to save a life? 8-month-old Emma Clark has been dying for 3 weeks. The doctors don't know why. Her tiny body is shutting down, organ by organ, and nothing they try is working. Her parents, Maya and David, are facing every parent's worst nightmare, saying goodbye to their baby girl. But Bruno won't let them. The 6-year-old German Shepherd, a retired police canine, has been camped outside the pediatric ICU since Emma was admitted. Security removes him. He comes back. Maya tries to take him home. He escapes and returns to the hospital. And when she finally sneaks him in to say goodbye, Bruno does something that stops everyone cold. He starts giving his police alert, the signal he was trained to give when he detected drugs, explosives, or danger, pawing frantically at Emma's IV line, growling at the medical equipment, refusing to back down. Everyone thinks he's confused, but Bruno has a 98% accuracy rate. He's never been wrong. What if he's not saying goodbye? What if he's screaming, "Danger"? Where are you watching from? Let me know below. And subscribe. You won't want to miss how this unfolds.
The pediatric intensive care unit at Children's Memorial Hospital smelled of antiseptic and quiet desperation. Maya Clark sat on the rocking chair beside her daughter's crib, her hand resting gently on Emma's tiny chest, feeling each labored breath. 8 months old. Emma should be crawling by now, laughing, grabbing at everything in reach. Instead, she lay motionless, except for the mechanical rise and fall of her chest, kept alive by tubes and monitors that beeped their relentless rhythm. "Mrs. Clark?" Dr. Victoria Cross stood in the doorway, her expression professionally sympathetic. The hospital director rarely made bedside visits, which meant this was serious. Maya's husband, David, stood from the corner where he'd been slumped, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. "We've received the latest test results," Dr. Cross continued, entering the room. "I'm afraid there's been no improvement. In fact, her kidney and liver function continue to decline." "But what's causing it?" Maya's voice cracked. 3 weeks you've been running tests. There has to be something." "We've tested for everything. Infections, genetic disorders, environmental toxins, metabolic conditions. Whatever's affecting Emma, it's aggressive, and we haven't been able to identify it." Dr. Cross paused, choosing her words carefully. "At this point, we need to discuss quality of life and comfort care options." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. "You're giving up on her." "We're facing reality. Emma is suffering. Sometimes the kindest thing." "She's 8 months old." David's voice rose. "There has to be something else you can try." Dr. Cross's expression hardened slightly. "I understand this is difficult, but we have other patients who need these resources. Emma's prognosis is—" A commotion in the hallway interrupted her. Raised voices, the scrabble of claws on linoleum. "Ma'am, you can't bring that dog in here. I've told you he won't leave." Maya rushed to the door. In the hallway, Bruno sat planted firmly outside the ICU entrance, his alert German Shepherd ears pinned back, brown eyes fixed on the unit doors. A security guard tried to pull him away by the collar, but the 85-pound dog wouldn't budge. "Bruno?" Maya called. The dog's head whipped toward her voice. He whined, a desperate sound she'd never heard from him before. "He knows Emma's sick," Maya whispered. "Animals can sense death," Dr. Cross said from behind her, her tone matter-of-fact. "He's trying to be near her at the end." But Maya looked at Bruno's rigid posture, the intensity in his eyes, and something told her Dr. Cross was wrong. This wasn't grief. This was something else entirely. Maya couldn't sleep. At midnight, she stood in the hospital parking lot staring at the pediatric wing windows. Emma was up there, alone except for the night shift nurses. The thought made her physically ache. A familiar shape moved in the shadows near the emergency entrance. Bruno, lying by the automatic doors, his massive head resting on his paws, but his eyes alert. "You stubborn boy," Maya whispered. "You should be home." Bruno stood immediately, tail low, pressing against her legs. He whined again, that same desperate,
urgent sound. She'd brought his favorite treats, but Bruno ignored them completely. Instead, she pushed his nose against her hand, then towards the hospital entrance, then back to her hand. The gesture was clear. Let me in. Let me see her. An idea formed. Crazy. Against every hospital rule. But Emma was dying anyway. What did rules matter now? Maya walked to the emergency entrance where a young nurse named Keisha was doing paperwork at the desk. "Hi, I'm Maya Clark. My daughter Emma is in the PICU." "I know," Keisha said gently. "I'm so sorry. I've seen you here day and night." "Thank you. Listen, this is going to sound insane, but this is her dog, Bruno. He was my husband's canine police dog. Well, he'd left the force to spend more time with family. The dog was trained, disciplined, never acted out. But since Emma was admitted, he'd been a different animal. Frantic, fixated, refusing to leave the hospital." "He knows Emma's sick," Maya whispered. "Animals can sense death," Dr. Cross said from behind her, her tone matter-of-fact. "He's trying to be near her at the end." But Maya looked at Bruno's rigid posture, the intensity in his eyes, and something told her Dr. Cross was wrong. This wasn't grief. This was something else entirely. Maya couldn't sleep. At midnight, she stood in the hospital parking lot staring at the pediatric wing windows. Emma was up there, alone except for the night shift nurses. The thought made her physically ache. A familiar shape moved in the shadows near the emergency entrance. Bruno, lying by the automatic doors, his massive head resting on his paws, but his eyes alert. "You stubborn boy," Maya whispered. "You should be home." Bruno stood immediately, tail low, pressing against her legs. He whined again, that same desperate, urgent sound. She'd brought his favorite treats, but Bruno ignored them completely. Instead, she pushed his nose against her hand, then towards the hospital entrance, then back to her hand. The gesture was clear. Let me in. Let me see her. An idea formed. Crazy, against every hospital rule. But Emma was dying anyway. What did rules matter now? Maya walked to the emergency entrance where a young nurse named Keisha was doing paperwork at the desk. "Hi, I'm Maya Clark. My daughter Emma is in the PICU." "I know," Keisha said gently. "I'm so sorry. I've seen you here day and night." "Thank you. Listen, this is going to sound insane, but this is her dog, Bruno. He was my husband's police canine, and he won't leave the hospital. He's been here for 5 days." My voice broke. "I know it's against policy, but could he just see her one time to say goodbye?" Keisha looked at Bruno and sat perfectly still, every inch the trained professional. "Dr. Cross would lose her mind," Keisha said slowly. "I understand this is difficult, but I'm not—" "But Dr. Cross doesn't work nights," Keisha interrupted, standing. "And the night doctor, Dr. Mitchell, he's different. He believes in things the others don't. Alternative approaches, family bonding, that sort of thing." Hope flickered in Maya's chest. "You'd help?" Keisha grabbed a visitor badge and a therapy dog vest, bright blue with patches. "Put this on him. If anyone asks, he's a certified therapy dog visiting his family. Got it?" "Thank you. Thank you so much." "Just make it count and be quick. Rounds are in 20 minutes. Maya clipped the vest onto Bruno, who immediately stood at attention, his training taking over. They moved through the quiet hallways, Bruno's nails clicking softly on the floor. As they approached Emma's room, Bruno's entire demeanor changed. His nose went up, working the air. His body tensed, and a low growl rumbled in his chest. Not aggressive, but alert. Warning. Maya had heard that sound hundreds of times when Bruno was working. It meant, "I found something. Danger detected. Stand by." But they were in a hospital, in Emma's room. What danger could Bruno be detecting? Maya opened the door, and Bruno moved forward with purpose, his canine training fully engaged. He was on a mission now, and nothing was going to stop him.
Emma's room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of monitors. Maya's breath caught as she led Bruno inside.
The dog moved with focused intensity, approaching the crib with the same deliberate caution she'd seen during drug searches. Bruno reached the crib and immediately his behavior escalated. He reared up on his hind legs, placing his front paws on the crib rail, nose working frantically around Emma's tiny form. Then he did something that made Maya's blood run cold. He gave his formal alert. Paw scratching at the IV line in Emma's arm, sharp bark, sitting rigid, staring at Maya, then back at the IV, paw, bark, the exact sequence he'd been trained to give when he detected narcotics or explosives. "Bruno, no!" Maya said confused. "Baby, what do you—" But Bruno wasn't finished. He moved to the IV stand, sniffing the bags of fluid hanging there. His growl intensified. Then he moved to the medical supply cart against the wall, pawing at it, barking more urgently. The door burst open. Keisha rushed in, followed by a tall man in a white coat, Dr. James Mitchell, the night pediatrician. "What's happening?" Keisha asked. "He's giving his detection alert," Maya said, her voice shaking. "But that doesn't make sense. He's trained to detect drugs and explosives. There's nothing here except medical—" She stopped, stared at the IV line, at the supply cart, at Bruno's frantic pawing. "Unless he's detecting something in the medical supplies," she finished slowly. Dr. Mitchell moved closer, watching Bruno with intense interest. "That's a trained police dog? 5 years on the force, 98% accuracy rate. He's never given a false alert." Maya's mind was racing. What if there's something wrong with Emma's IV, with the medications? "All our supplies are sterile, sealed, checked multiple times," Keisha said, but her voice wavered. "They come from the hospital pharmacy." Bruno interrupted with another sharp bark, this time directed at the specific IV bag currently running into Emma's arm. He sat in front of it, rigid, staring between the bag and the humans. The message was crystal clear. This, right here, this is the problem. Dr. Mitchell pulled out his phone, taking photos of the IV bag, the lot numbers, the supply card contents. What if the dog is right? What if there's contamination we haven't detected? "That's ridiculous," came a cold voice from the doorway. Dr. Victoria Cross stood there, flanked by 2 security guards. Her face was rigid with fury. "Mrs. Clark, you brought an unauthorized animal into my sterile pediatric ICU." "He's trying to tell us something," Maya said desperately. "He keeps alerting on Emma's IV." "He's a confused dog in a stressful environment." Dr. Cross gestured to security. "Remove the animal immediately. Mrs. Clark, you violated hospital policy and I'm restricting your access to—" "Wait," Dr. Mitchell interrupted. "What if we test what he's alerting on, just to be sure?" "We don't make medical decisions based on dog behavior," Dr. Cross snapped. Bruno barked again, urgent and insistent. And in Emma's crib, her monitor alarm suddenly began to wail. Emma's vitals had stabilized, but the near crisis had shaken everyone. Everyone except Dr. Cross, who'd ordered Bruno removed and Maya temporarily banned from the PICU. But Dr. Mitchell couldn't shake what he'd seen. At 3 a.m., he found himself in the hospital pharmacy requesting the batch records for all supplies used in Emma's care. "This is unusual," the night pharmacist said, pulling up the digital logs. "Is there a problem?" "Just being thorough." Dr. Mitchell scanned the records. Everything looked normal. Proper lot numbers, expiration dates, storage temperatures. But something nagged at him. His phone buzzed. A text from Keisha. "Get to the break room, now." He found her there with Maya and David, who'd somehow been let back into the building. And sitting calmly between them was Bruno. "Before you say anything, just listen," Keisha said, holding her hand. "I pulled Emma's medical timeline. Look at this." She spread papers across the table, highlighting specific dates. Emma started declining 3 weeks ago, right? But it wasn't gradual. There are spike dates, days when she got dramatically worse, and look what they all have in common. Dr. Mitchell studied the pattern. Every spike corresponded to a specific shift change when new IV bags would be hung. "And here's the really weird part," Keisha said. "I checked the pharmacy logs. All of Emma's IV solutions come from the same supplier batch that arrived 6 weeks ago. It was a new contract, cheaper vendor. Dr. Cross approved it personally to cut costs. You're suggesting the IV solutions are contaminated, Dr. Mitchell said carefully. I'm saying a trained detection dog keeps alerting on them, and a baby who was healthy is dying for no identifiable reason. Keisha's voice was firm. That's enough to at least test them, isn't it? David spoke for the first time, his voice rough with exhaustion and hope. Bruno's never been wrong. When he alerts, there's always something there. Always. Dr. Mitchell made a decision. Okay, I'll send samples to an independent lab. Quiet, off the books. If there's contamination, we need to know. But if Dr. Cross finds out... She already hates me. What's she gonna do, fire me twice? They worked quickly. Dr. Mitchell drawing samples from the IV bags Bruno had alerted on, carefully documenting everything. Bruno sat watched the entire time, his eyes never leaving the medical supplies. As dawn broke, Dr. Mitchell packaged the samples for the lab. Rush analysis, results in 48 hours. Emma might not have 48 hours, Maya whispered. Dr. Mitchell looked at Bruno, who met his gaze steadily. Then we take her off the IV fluids, use alternative hydration methods. If the dog is right, removing the source of contamination should show improvement. And if Dr. Cross finds out you changed Emma's treatment based on a dog's behavior? David's voice asked. Then I lose my license, Dr. Mitchell's jaw said firmly. But if that dog saved a life, it'll be worth it. Bruno's tail thumped once against the floor. The investigation had begun.
Dr. Victoria Cross discovered the protocol change at morning rounds. Her face went white with rage. "You did what?" she hissed at Dr. Mitchell in the hallway outside Emma's room. "You discontinued standard IV therapy based on a dog's behavior?" "Based on an unexplained pattern of decline that correlates with IV administration," Dr. Mitchell corrected calmly. "And the patient's condition has already improved. Look at her labs from this morning." He handed her the tablet. Emma's numbers were better, not dramatically, but measurably. Liver enzymes down, kidney function stabilizing. Dr. Cross stared at the results, her expression unreadable. "Coincidence. The body fluctuates. For 3 weeks, she's declined steadily. 12 hours off IV fluids and she improves? That's not coincidence." "You sent unauthorized samples to an outside lab," Dr. Cross said, her voice dangerously quiet. "You violated chain of custody protocols, wasted hospital resources, and undermined my authority as director. I'm formally suspending you pending review." "Suspend me, but don't put that baby back on those IVs until we get the lab results." "This hospital uses FDA-approved supplies from vetted vendors. There is no contamination. What there is a hysterical mother, an incompetent night doctor, and a dog who has everyone chasing ghosts." Dr. Cross leaned closer. "That baby is dying because she's sick, not because of our supplies. And when she dies on your watch because you denied her proper treatment, that's on you." But Maya had heard everything from inside Emma's room. She stepped into the hallway, fury and desperation warring on her face. "If she dies, it's because you chose cheaper supplies over safety," Maya said. "Because you cut costs and didn't check quality. Bruno detected something your system missed." "Mrs. Clark, your delusions are not medical fact." "Then prove it." David emerged behind his wife holding his phone. "The local news would love this story. Hospital director denies testing after contamination alert. Baby dies while administrators protect their budget." Dr. Cross's face flushed. "Are you threatening me?" "We're asking you to do the right thing," Maya said. "Wait for the lab results. Keep Emma off those IVs. If we're wrong, you can ban us, fire Dr. Mitchell, whatever you want. But if we're right and you ignore it..." The unspoken threat hung in the air. Legal liability, public scandal, career destruction. Dr. Cross looked between them, her perfect composure cracking. Fine. 48 hours. But when those results come back clean, I want all of you out of this hospital, permanently. She stalked away, heels clicking sharply against the floor. Keisha appeared from the nurse's station, her eyes wide. That took guts. That took desperation, Maya corrected. She looked down at Bruno, who sat calmly beside her. But if he's right, he's right. Bruno's always right. Now they just had to wait for science to catch up to what a German shepherd already knew, and pray Emma could hold on long enough. 36 hours later, Dr. Mitchell's phone rang at 2 a.m. The lab director's voice was urgent. Dr. Mitchell, you need to see these results immediately, and you need to contact the CDC. He arrived at the hospital 20 minutes later, burst into Emma's room where Maya had been maintaining her vigil. David was there too, and Keisha on her night shift. Bruno lay beside Emma's crib, his presence now tacitly accepted. The lab results came back, Dr. Mitchell said, his voice tight. Bruno was right. The IV solutions are contaminated. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. With what? A fungal toxin, microscopic levels, undetectable by standard testing. It's a contamination that occurs when manufacturing equipment isn't properly sterilized. Accumulated exposure causes exactly the symptoms Emma showed: multi-organ failure, progressive decline. Oh my God, Keisha breathed. How many patients have received those supplies? That's what the CDC needs to determine. But Emma, Dr. Mitchell looked at the baby, sleeping more peacefully than she had in weeks. Emma would have died in days if Bruno hadn't alerted us. David knelt beside Bruno, burying his face in the dog's fur. Good boy, Bruno. The German shepherd's tail wagged, but his eyes remained fixed on Emma, still protective, still alert. We need to tell Dr. Cross. She needs to know. She already knows. Dr. Cross's voice came from the doorway. The director looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Her pristine appearance was disheveled, her eyes red-rimmed. How long have you known? Dr. Mitchell asked quietly. The CDC called me an hour ago. They've launched a full investigation. The supplier had multiple violations in their manufacturing facility, cost-cutting measures that compromised sterility. Her voice was hollow. 12 hospitals received the bad batch. We're tracking down every patient who received those IVs. How many? Keisha asked. In our hospital alone, 37 pediatric patients over the past 6 weeks. Dr. Cross's hands shook. Most were mild cases. The kids fought it off or exposure was limited, but 3 others showed serious decline like Emma. They were diagnosed with mysterious illnesses. 1 died last week. The room fell silent. That baby died because I wouldn't listen, Dr. Cross whispered. Because I prioritized budget over safety. Because I dismissed a dog's warning as hysteria. Maya wanted to feel vindicated. Instead, she just felt hollow. What happens now? Now, recalls, investigations, lawsuits. Dr. Cross looked at Emma. And I resign. Effective immediately. I'm done. Dr. Mitchell started. No, I made a choice that killed a child. Nothing else matters. She looked at Bruno. That dog is a better doctor than I ever was. She walked out, her perfect posture finally broken. In Emma's crib, Emma stirred, making a soft sound, not distress, but something almost like contentment. Her color was better, her breathing easier. Bruno placed his paw gently on the crib rail, maintaining his watch. You saved her, she whispered to him. You saved our baby. But German Shepherd's response was simple. Duty, protection, love. It's what he'd been trained to do.
The story broke nationally within 24 hours. Canine hero saves dying baby. German Shepherd detects hospital contamination. Doctors missed. Maya's phone exploded with interview requests. News crews camped outside the hospital, but she only agreed to 1 interview.
a local reporter who'd covered David's police work years ago. The video was simple. Maya holding Emma, who looked alert for the first time in weeks. David standing behind them with his hand on Bruno's head. The German shepherd sitting at attention, dignified despite the cameras. "Bruno never stopped trying to tell us," Maya explained to the camera. "He knew something was wrong. He did his job, and because of him, our daughter is alive." The reporter crouched beside Bruno. "Can you show us what he did?" David gave Bruno the command, "Search." Immediately, the dog's demeanor changed. He approached a training dummy they'd set up with one of the contaminated IV bags attached. Bruno circled it once, then sat rigid, paw raised, staring at David. The classic detection alert. That's the signal. Paw up means target found. He did that exact alert on Emma's IV line, over and over. The video went viral, 5 million views in 2 days, 10 million by the end of the week. But more importantly, it sparked a national conversation. How many other hospitals were using substandard suppliers? How many patients suffered from contamination that went undetected? Why weren't there better safety protocols? The CDC investigation expanded. 15 hospitals in total had received the contaminated supplies. 73 patients had been exposed. 5 had died, including 3 babies. Support poured in from unexpected places. The American Kennel Club released a statement highlighting detection dogs' capabilities. Police canine units across the country shared their own stories of dogs detecting dangers humans missed. Medical safety advocates called for new protocols. Dr. Mitchell was not only reinstated, but promoted to head of patient safety. His first act was proposing a program to train detection dogs specifically for medical environments. Keisha received a Nursing Excellence Award for her willingness to question authority when patient safety was at stake. And the hospital, now under new leadership, announced the Bruno Protocol. Any trained detection dog's alert on medical equipment would trigger immediate investigation, no questions asked. But the most touching response came from families of the other affected children. They reached out to Maya and David, sharing photos and stories. A network of parents connected by tragedy and a dog's unwavering instinct. One mother whose son had died wrote, "If someone had listened to their gut like you listened to Bruno, maybe my baby would still be here. Thank you for fighting, for believing, for proving that sometimes the answers come from unexpected places." Maya read that message to Bruno, who simply rested his head on her lap. "You're a hero," she told him. But Bruno wasn't interested in glory. He was interested in Emma, who just giggled, a real genuine baby laugh for the first time in a month. His tail lagged. Job complete. Family safe. That was all that mattered. 6 weeks after Bruno's alert, Emma was thriving. The toxin had been flushed from her system and her organs were healing. She'd gained weight, started sitting up, and was almost back to normal developmental milestones. But the journey had changed everyone. Maya and David stood in the hospital conference room where it all began, this time by invitation. The new hospital director, Dr. Sarah Brennan, had assembled the board of trustees. "We wanted to formally thank you," Dr. Brennan said, "and to apologize for how you were treated. The hospital failed Emma, failed all those children." "Bruno didn't fail," David said simply. "No, he didn't." Dr. Brennan pulled out a proclamation, which is why we are creating the Bruno Award for Medical Safety. It will be given annually to healthcare workers who speak up when they see something wrong, who question authority when patients are at risk, like Bruno did. She also presented them with a check, a settlement for Emma's care and suffering. It was substantial. "We won't take money for this," Maya said firmly, "but we will take it in Emma's name for a foundation, to train more detection dogs for medical settings, to fund safety protocols, to make sure no other family goes through what we did." The Emma Clark Foundation launched 3 months later. Its mission, training dogs to detect medical contamination, equipment failures, and other dangers invisible to human senses. Bruno became the program's first instructor, teaching younger dogs the alerts that had saved his girl's life. The program gained traction.
Hospitals began requesting trained and detection dogs. Insurance companies offered premium reductions for facilities that employed them. Medical schools added animal-assisted safety detection to their curriculums. And Bruno? He split his time between foundation work and his real job, being Emma's protector. Now 8 months into her recovery, Emma was crawling, babbling, grabbing everything in sight with chubby, healthy hands. And wherever she went, Bruno followed, always within 3 feet, always watching, always ready. One evening, Maya found David on the floor with Emma, watching as she pulled herself up using Bruno's sturdy frame. The German Shepherd stood perfectly still, patient as Emma used his fur for balance. "She trusts him completely," Maya said softly. "He should. He saved her life." David scratched behind Bruno's ears. "Best partner I ever had. Even better than he was on the force." Emma finally got her balance and stood wobbling, holding Bruno's collar. She looked up at the dog and laughed. Pure joy. Bruno's tail wagged slowly, careful not to knock her over. "Thank you," Maya whispered to him, "for not giving up, for fighting when everyone else said to accept the inevitable, for loving her enough to break all the rules." Bruno glanced at Maya, his brown eyes warm and steady. Then he returned his attention to Emma, his job, his purpose, his reason for every alert, every vigil, every refused meal during those dark days. She was alive. She was healthy. She was safe. That was all a good dog needed.
1 year later, Maya stood on a stage at the National Medical Safety Conference. Emma balanced on her hip. The baby, now a toddler, was healthy, vibrant, chattering in her mother's ear about the big room and lots of people. Beside them sat Bruno, older but still strong, wearing his official medical detection dog vest. "A year ago, doctors told us to prepare for our daughter's death," Maya began, her voice steady. "They'd run every test, tried every treatment. Nothing worked. Emma was dying, and no one knew why." She gestured to Bruno. "Except him. This German Shepherd, trained to detect drugs and explosives, knew something was wrong. He broke protocol, refused commands, wouldn't leave the hospital. And when he finally got to Emma, he did his job. He alerted on the contaminated IV supplies that were slowly poisoning her." The audience was silent, hanging on every word. Bruno didn't give up because that's not what he was trained to do. Detection dogs are trained to find the truth no matter what, to trust their senses over human assumptions, to alert even when everyone says they're wrong. She pulled up a photo on the screen behind her. Bruno sitting rigid beside Emma's crib, paw raised in his alert position. This photo was taken the night he detected the contamination. Look at his face. That's not confusion. That's not grief. That's certainty. That's a dog doing exactly what he was trained to do, detecting danger and warning his humans. More photos appeared. Emma recovering, other children who'd been affected, hospital safety protocols being revised. Today, 23 hospitals across the country have medical detection dogs. They've caught contaminated supplies, faulty equipment, even gas leaks in operating rooms. They've prevented countless deaths. And it started because one German Shepherd refused to let one baby die. Emma squirmed, reaching for Bruno. Maya set her down, and the toddler immediately wrapped her arms around the dog's neck. Bruno stood perfectly still, patient and protective. The audience erupted in applause. After the speech, families approached with their own stories. A mother whose son's peanut allergy was detected by a service dog when packaging was mislabeled. A father whose daughter's infection was caught early because their family dog wouldn't stop sniffing her surgery site. "Animals know things we don't," an elderly doctor told Maya. "We've just been too arrogant to listen." That evening, back in their hotel room, Maya watched Emma play with Bruno on the floor. The toddler was examining him with her toy doctor kit, placing the plastic stethoscope on his chest. "Doggy okay?" Emma announced seriously. "Yes, baby, Doggy is very okay." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Doggy is perfect." David wrapped her arm around her. "She won't remember how close we came to losing her. Won't remember those dark days in the ICU. But we will," Maya said softly, "and we'll make sure the world knows that sometimes the best medicine doesn't come from a pharmacy. Sometimes it comes on 4 paws with a cold nose and an unwavering sense of duty."
Bruno looked up at them, Emma draped across his back like he was her personal pillow. His tail wagged once. Guardian, protector, hero, just doing what he was trained to do. Saving lives, one alert at a time. The end. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing. Tomorrow, I'll be back with another story that reminds us why we should never underestimate the bond between humans and the animals who protect us.